So when you think about the state of our worship today, what do you feel is missing as far as quality? When we talk about doing our best as worshiping and praising God, what do you feel like is missing in a lot of our churches?
I feel like one that's the worship leader lacks a skill set to really grow people. And it's a number of things, but if you say the most, the connection amongst the man and the leadership has to be done well. But I think the worship leader lacks we have a lot of song leaders, men who are talented in singing, but do not have a desire to grow the people of God as it relates to the music ministry. And I think what happens is that when you're dealing with, you think about men that are talented but don't have the love for the people of God, then worship becomes entertaining and growth doesn't happen because it's always about what this guy can do for us. And worship needs to be to God, and worship needs to also edify, but you can't edify if it's a show.
That's right.
And a lot of worship leaders, man, just are comfortable with being really good at what they do and taking the crowd to another level. But the people are stagnant.
I think one thing that we're lacking is good relationships between the worship leader and the leadership of that congregation, which may, a byproduct of that could be a lack of clear direction even with a music ministry within a congregation. And so I think it boils down to song leaders and their leaders of the congregation have to sit down and have conversations, because sometimes they don't view it as important. And sometimes it just becomes any old body can sing any old thing. But I think intentionality has to come into play. And singers, worship leaders and congregations need to come together. And they need to start seeing the need for there to be training, the need for there to be a push in the direction of investments of people, getting better at what they're doing. Sometimes there's no investment, You'll stick a guy up there and there's no investing and saying, why don't we look and see some courses or some music classes that you can take, or, things to...
Right, for future development.
Yeah, future development.
Yeah,
It's got to
because many churches don't value it.
Absolutely.
They just want you to have the gift and do that part. But you're right, there's no investment.
And it's the only, we said this in our discussion the other day, a worship leader is a minister in every sense of the word.
Absolutely.
He's teaching through song. So imagine what a church would do if they had a pulpit minister that didn't study the word of God, or a pulpit minister that didn't grow in his craft.
Right. Well, he's not going to be there long.
He's not going to be there long, right? And what's happening with worship leaders is that the expectation is that the people are going to grow from this worship leader or this minister of music, but there's no investment in it. And he is not investing in his own craft.
Absolutely.
Which means, again, the people are stagnant.
The music minister, in the eyes of a lot of our congregations in our fellowship, is not valued as a minister. He's just a glorified song leader. That's how they view it. And I mean this seriously, like out of their own mouths, that's what I collect from them. They have trouble saying music minister, or they say it freely, but they're just thinking song leader.
They don't respect it.
They don't respect the actual position of a music minister or a singer as God set it up in the Old Testament. And it's all throughout the scripture in the Old Testament of how important it is. Listen, Lucifer was the worship minister in heaven. Lucifer, lucid, light, bright and morning star. Worship is important to God, whether our local churches think so or not. Worship is important to God. So the person that is over that aspect is a minister, and there must be an investment in their musicianship. Listen, we sing a cappella music.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of writers in our fellowship.
You touched on that. Yeah, that's one of the things that I wish would change amongst our fellowship.
But with that, we don't have a lot of writers in our fellowship. So what do? We go and get something that we hear off gospel radio or whatever, and we try to, we put it in 4-part harmony, which is, to be honest, I mean, we're musicians. It's disrespectful to the original artist to just sit there and we're just gonna boil it down to really simple. It's because there's no investment in the musicianship of the music minister. And then I think the biggest thing is there is no template in our minds. There's no template. Well, we ain't never done this before. Mm-hmm. So we don't
That's
have
that vision.
Exactly. We don't have
Absolutely.
that template. So you have a lot of guys who see, and I mean, this is an honest conversation.
Right.
We have a lot of guys who see the trophy wife, the nice, shiny, new car in the garage. Oh, I gotta get one of those. I gotta get one of those. I gotta get me a music minister. I gotta get that. And you don't have a template.
Right.
Most of them don't have any working knowledge of music other than, oh, I know if somebody's off or whether they're on.
Right.
So with no template, and it's the new shiny thing, and I gotta have it, and you have guys that are hungry to do it, you have a big mess.
Yeah.
I think of what y'all are talking about is even what some ministers had to do early on. Yeah. When congregations were disrespecting the man of God or the minister, then ministers had to get together. Just maybe like you musicians and song leaders and praise and worship leaders need to get together. The man of God had to get together and turn around and realize we need to educate the congregation that after we labor and after we serve, a chicken dinner won't do.
Right.
After we have given our lives, don't set the man of God out to pasture and just go get, churches had to be educated on how to treat. Do you feel, well, I would say this, what are some no-nos that a church should not do to if you had to create a list, don't do this to a worship leader, a song leader, a praise leader. This is a no-no.
Oh.
What would you say is a no-no?
I think one of the things that is viewed as a negative is a worship leader that is unpaid. That's a no-no. You know what I mean? Because
biblically.
I mean because you think about the work that I'm just talking about on Sunday. And if you talk about a minister of music, and let me jump here and come right back.
Okay.
We got to be careful too as ministers of music not to be lazy.
Absolutely.
Because we can't say we're a minister of music and then all we do is Sunday morning. Like we got to start edifying. We got to visit the sick. We have to make sure that the music ministry is permeating throughout the congregation.
Right.
So I think once we take that more serious, I mean, leadership will look at compensation. I think another thing is not accepting growth musically. There's an appetite that the congregations have that limit the work of a minister of music. What do I mean? You want to hear this. We want to do this.
Yeah.
If you're not doing this, then you're not there. If you can't get me as high as Malcolm,
right.
then you're not doing it. You see what I'm saying? So I think the leadership, the congregation has to be receptive of learning music.
I think what you touched on is, in order to pay a worship or a praise leader, I have to know the value.
Yes.
But who has taught us the value?
Right.
Absolutely.
So if we don't know the value, I say, hey, listen, I'll give you $25 a Sunday.
Right.
You would say that's disrespectful.
Right.
Just as a minister would say that's disrespectful. And it's because you don't know the value.
That's
right.
And so we really may even have an education problem with understanding the different roles within the body of Christ.
And
I think too, what comes into play is contexts are going to vary. So when you decide to say, I'm going to pay someone based on ABC, that comes with a whole lot of things, involved in that. They may have a list of things that they need for their context. You know what I mean? For instance, like you just said earlier, we want you to visit the sick. We want you to, sing on the third and the fourth Sunday fellowship. We want you to do this, and this. And a lot of churches, what they'll do, they'll rip that. They'll just say, hey, send me a list of what you guys have your music minister doing. And then they'll just plug it right in without considering the context of what they're going to have that minister of music operating in. And I think a lot of times when you do that, you have to make sure that, in hiring a music minister, I think that's a great discussion too. You know what I mean? How to hire one, because
but the ones who have to lead that discussion has to be y'all, because who else
would
outside would be able to come and say this is, because we don't know actually what goes into it.
Right.
There is the gift, and each and every one of you has a gift, but we don't know the work that you put around the gift to make, to go into different congregations that have not been taught and bring them to a point to where you can bless. So like, what's the scale? I'll say on a for a lot of young ministers and for a lot of older ministers, they may want to respect you, but they don't have a template, so they throw out something and they look at your reaction. Is that?
Yeah, sure.
And they do that for ministers too.
Sure.
Hey, doc, this, let me know if that's enough. Because even amongst ministers, there is no scale of when you bring a minister in of this gift versus that gift. And so how do you? I think
it has to be, we're talking about pay scale particularly. If a man is giving his life and he's a full-time employee of the congregation, he should be able to feed his family. If that's what you're talking about.
Well, any full-time should be.
Anybody, right?
Yeah.
And see, what's happening is that you want a full-time product
in a part-time
role.
Yeah.
Right? And that's difficult for a man to, I'm an elementary school principal, right? I work 40, 60 hours a week, right? So if you're talking about growing a congregation
and leaving that, and
then, you know what I mean? Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be comparable. I mean, because that could be challenging depending on what your profession is, but it has to be respectful of the work that's going in.
Absolutely.
And I agree. We was talking. We did a session yesterday, and we were talking about it. And I agree. One of the things that at the end of the session, that people were coming to us, all three of us, and we're saying is, how do we do it? How do we create it? What does it look like? And I think over the last few months, or maybe the last year, that's been something that I've heard more than anything. And we're in the process of creating that. Of okay, if you want this is what you need.
Absolutely.
These are the things you need to do in order to really grow a music ministry. Because a music ministry, man, done right.
Right, yeah, it takes it to another level.
Nothing like
But here's the thing. The previous generation, did they really come together and discuss how to do it?
No, it's going to have to be done with us. It's going to have to be done with our generation, because I don't believe the previous generation even valued it
Right.
in the way that it's valued now. Because ministers in 2017 recognize how much praise and worship impacts all the areas of the congregation.
Right.
Impacts everything.
And if you want to be honest, including your collection.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
There are
Give us a good giving song. I don't know what that is.
right.
I'm about to sing.
That's a no-no,
Yeah,
right?
that's a no-no.
Right. I mean, but
Is that a no-no? If when a minister says, "Give me a good giving song,"
Well,
that's a no-no.
My question
It's not
is,
a no-
It's not a no-no.
find in a songbook where you can find a song about giving other than "You Can't Beat God Giving."
Right. Well, I would say from a minister, what they're really saying is,
give me some upbeat. Make
give
people
me
happy.
high-spirited song, so that people don't feel sad.
I'm going to tell you something that I don't like. I mean, there's a no-no for me. And especially in my home congregation, because I labor over what I'm going to sing every Sunday.
Yeah.
I labor over it. By Thursday, Friday, I'm singing these songs. I'm ready to roll
You're ready.
Sunday morning because I've been practicing on
You've
this
been
stuff.
singing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like an overabundance of requests.
Mm.
And I'm gonna tell you why. Could you imagine? Just travel down your imagination with me, Willie. Could you imagine getting up to preach a sermon,
And somebody not
giving you another text?
don't do that.
You see what I'm saying? Now, but make sure, but
Hold on, you're out of order.
Right.
Sit down.
right.
Yeah.
And I understand that people need different things, but the trust and the faith in the minister of music should be similar to the trust and the faith of the minister, is that I am aware of the congregation.
Right.
I am aware of the things that are needed.
Right.
I am in contact with my minister.
Yeah.
He has made me aware of the state of the church.
Absolutely.
And now we have coupled to be able to produce something that's edifying
Absolutely.
and pleasing to God on a Sunday morning.
Absolutely.
Right.
We were just laughing at Jason, then I'm going to shut up. We were just not laughing, but we were marveling at Jason's minister just got finished preaching.
Absolutely.
And he
Holy
said,
Spirit.
he looked at us and said, what do you think about invitation? And we was like, that's your guy. Like that's
Yeah,
your man.
right.
Like you sit with him every
You know,
Sunday, right?
Yeah.
And he looked over at us and he said, I don't feel no ways tired. I don't feel no ways tired.
Yeah.
And we was like, all right, cool.
Yeah, that was
we
blessed.
ready. Before he got that out of his mouth good and we got comfortable with it, his minister started that song.
Yeah.
Right.
They didn't have no conversation,
Yeah, no
and he didn't know what we was talking about.
But you already knew.
I
But
know.
that kind of connection has to happen.
Right, and that's-
you know what I
that's
mean?
so important.
Because you imagine, look at what that song added to what he had already done.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's just that has to be
Yeah.
has to exist.
And I love that, because I think that is one of the best things about what we do, is the fact that you get to impact. You can if your worship leader, music minister, whatever you want to call them, just take care of it. But but the thing is, when you're in sync like that, with the vision and the mission of a church, or the direction your preacher is going, that type of synergy,
Yeah.
it can't be beat,
Yeah.
because that impacts people.
Yeah.
Music, you think about how we learn. We learned our ABCs through music.
Yeah.
Right.
I learned my phone number through music.
Yeah.
My mom had a song, I won't sing it.
Was it 281-330-8004?
No, it was not.
Okay.
But you learn through music.
But
And-
to your testament, I remember my Uncle Paul, I don't know what maybe got it from him, I remember him saying, music is the only thing that enters into the mind without permission.
Without permission.
Yeah.
It is.
Music is the only thing, and he sings
that.
all over, yeah. But music is the only thing that
Only
enters
thing.
into the mind without permission.
That's and you know how accurate that is. If I was at work the other day and one of my colleagues was in his office and he was playing Outstanding, and I'm just sitting on my computer, I'm on the phone, I'm doing everything.
And it got in your head.
It got in my head. A few minutes later, I'm in my office and I said, "Girl, you knocked me." He said, "Gotcha." You know what I'm saying? Because that's how powerful music is.
Right.
And then it stays with you. We were just, our last song, we were talking about, we're going to be singing that song all night because it stays with you. It's something you can carry over
Yeah.
throughout the
Guess
week.
what? Guess what? That song, remembering the song, starts helping you. At that moment, you start thinking about the message and what was said. You know what I mean? And that's
Matter of fact, I'll say even for a preacher, every preacher that really knows, you don't have to preach as hard.
Oh, no.
If the worship and the praise, you really can get in and make you don't have to do as much preliminary. You don't have to do all that. Because if it's there, you actually can get to business.
Yeah.
And so, you was gonna say something?
It's funny you're talking about songs entering the mind and you have no control over it. I've found myself, there are songs that I absolutely despise. There are songs I hate.
Oh, yeah.
But I know the lyrics to those songs better than I do the ones that I love.
Yeah, some
It's
songs
the
I want to
psychology of music. Music is the music and math,
Yeah.
the universal languages. I've sang in Brazil,
Yeah.
5,000 people on a Wednesday afternoon. No one speaks English. They all speak Portuguese.
They know every word to every song that we're
Right.
singing in language,
Right.
in English. So it's a universal language, and it impacts people. You look at the way people dress, the way they drive, the way they live. A lot of that comes from music.
Yeah.
That's true.
There are so many messages in music. So to just kind of throw music around in the church, if God created music, why would you devalue it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
God created it. He
Happens so
created
much.
a worship minister before he ever created a preacher.
Yeah.
And
And
that's,
we don't talk about that.
yeah, you're right on.
But it's nobody. Listen, no, I don't know of any churches that they come in, they have the morning announcements, and then he just preaches.
Right.
You don't.
You messing with the preacher,
Right.
and then he ain't gonna get up.
Right.
Right.
What
Right.
are y'all doing? Where's
So
the,
so why
he'll
is
sing.
it-
He'll sing a song before he preaches.
You got that right.
Exactly. Whether he can sing or not.
Right.
So why do people devalue it?
And it's crazy because ministers of music in many congregations. But I agree with you. It's gonna have to start from us and trickle it down and create a model. When people look at, you talk about another no-no. When people look at music, the music ministry, as a time slot or a filler, we ain't got an announcement together.
Y'all
Sing
keep
song.
saying, yeah.
No, that's not how it works. It's not. You know, the
That's-
thing is
that's
that
big.
intentionally,
Thank you.
I am trying to please God,
Absolutely.
and intentionally, I'm trying to edify the people.
Well, so many churches don't have. So many churches don't have praise leaders. They have brother such and such
Sure.
can sing, and he said he'll help out and help.
Yeah.
And so you have people who, and their value system is based on people that they've grabbed
Yeah.
that can hold a note.
Yeah.
You know, maybe. And so when a real worship leader walks in, they treat you like the brother who just grabbed the book. Like one of my pet peeves is, whether it be on Sunday or whatever other service, to walk in and grab a song book and be like,
Here we go.
let me see what we gon'
We gonna-
like we're not prepared.
Nah.
Yeah, we don't do enough of that.
Yeah, like you wasn't ready. Like sit back down. Like you were not ready to worship the Lord
Right.
It's
today.
amazing to me. Like what we fail to realize is that metaphorically, music or the worship, our singing and worship, is sometimes the front door of
It
the
is.
church.
Definitely.
Imagine how many souls are lost because a music minister messed it up before the preacher ever got there.
Mm.
You can actually lose
There are
people
people that turn around
that,
and leave.
that will come in
They leave.
and they will
Have y'all
say,
seen that?
I-
Y'all seen
yeah,
this?
man, I've
Oh,
seen
wow.
people walking
I've seen it
out.
happen.
I've seen people walking out. I've seen visitors sit there like,
Yeah.
and I've also seen visitors look and say, okay, oh, here we go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, so that is for, you talking about evangelistic?
Got the man.
That is the first thing, the first experience
Yeah.
that people have with the church
Absolutely.
or the body of Christ.
Absolutely.
The first thing
It's
that
their
come to my mind is David, who said to the family of Asaph, y'all gonna be the singers. I know there's other tribes,
Yeah.
but hey, listen, this out of this family, I don't know what it was about that family.
That's what I'm saying.
And I know it was another family as well, but Asaph, y'all gonna sing,
Y'all do that.
and everybody else, you know. And the way he structured that thing, after David died, Hezekiah had to go back and bring up Solomon had to do the same thing, but Hezekiah had to go back and look at the records and told David is dead and gone, but said, do it to the pattern
Yeah.
that David, and they had to reinstall, and they had to go back and get the family of Asaph because David was particular about who was going to lead
That's right.
in worship.
But you know why that is, though.
David was a worshiper.
Yeah.
Yes.
How many sermons have we heard about King David?
Many.
Millions. How many sermons have we heard about David, the musician?
No.
Very few.
Yeah.
But he
He
is.
was a musician before he was a shepherd. He was a musician. So you think about the aspects of worship. The man was a shepherd. He was a musician.
He was a worshiper before he ever
He's a
was a
worshiper.
king.
Yes, and
Yeah.
then he was a king.
Matter of fact, he was invited to the palace because of his gift of music.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah,
And if he, and what I love about, we talking about David. What I love about David is that now he, in the writings of Psalms, for example, right? David realized, and this is I try to keep a heart that's similar to what David's. David realized that worship and praise had to happen all the time. Because if you look through his writings, you'll see David be talking about, Lord, deliver me from this, and then he'll say Salah or Selah.
Yeah.
Praise break.
Yeah.
I got to give Jesus something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
Selah.
Selah.
Yeah.
You know, that is the attitude of a worship leader.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the attitude I believe God expects for us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's
It's good.
you look at John 4, when he's talking to the woman, she says, where do they say that we worship here? And y'all say that we worship here. And where do you say that we worship?
Yeah.
And he says that God is a spirit.
Yeah.
Right? So what is he saying? It ain't about the place.
Right, ain't about the place.
Right?
Right.
And a worship leader has to have that attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If we were closing this,
Yeah.
what do you feel is the first step? Because like I said, the education is not going to come. It's not going to come from the elders. It's not going to come from deacons. It may come from some ministers who understand, because some are musically inclined and they understand. But the majority of the education, or the re-education, as Lauren here, the miseducation of the church, it's going to have to come from music leaders. What would you say if there's somebody was watching and hearing it, somebody say, what's the first step that a church should take to start moving in the right direction to begin to develop a music ministry?
I would say take inventory of what
Get
you
out of my
have.
head, man.
You know, because a lot. And here's the thing: like in all transparency, a lot of preachers will say, "Man, you know, do you know somebody? Do you know somebody? Do you know somebody?" Well, what do you have first of all? What are you working with? You know, as a minister, I guess sometimes you have to know where to look. You know, sometimes they know there's a problem. How you fix it? Well, take inventory. What do you have? What singers do you have? Who's been singing? Start paying attention to what it is that's happening. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you say, well, man, I wish, because sometimes the end all be all, man, I want you to come sing. I wish you could come sing. Can you come to my, you know, take inventory of what you have. Start noticing patterns. You know what I mean? We got these guys that sing here, and they sing here and here, and they do this and they do that. Take inventory of the guys that you have.
And then invest.
Yeah, you gotta invest.
Yeah, invest. And even because you may say, well, I got these guys, but I know we're going to, in order for us to go to this next level, we'll need to bring somebody in. Take inventory so at least you know, even the musical background of your congregation.
Yeah.
You start, for yourself, you got some choral groups, you start looking at all of it, because even your choral groups can be the backbone of your congregational singing if done right. But you start just taking inventory of what it is that you have, and then start looking at what do you want your church culture to be musically. You know what I mean? What do you want your musical identity to be? You know what I mean? As a minister. Go ahead.
And if you don't have the budget to bring someone in, do not call them. Do not write them.
That sounds like a
Do
no-no.
not text them.
It's a no.
But that's a first step. That's a part of inventory.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to be able to go into the books. Okay, this is what we want. All right, this is the type of worship setting that I feel that God wants us to have. And I believe that this individual can do it. I believe this individual can work with these guys that I already have. How much is it going to take to bring this guy in to be comfortable enough to be worry-free about his finances, about finding another job, about taking care of his family? What is it that we need to do to make sure that in the book of Nehemiah, the Bible says that the worship suffered because the priests, the singers, and the gatekeepers had to go to their own fields and work. The worship suffered. God don't like suffering worship. God was mad at his people for bringing them little sick lambs.
Mm-hmm.
You bringing sick worship, or worship that's not adequate,
Below par.
subpar worship, because you have a guy here who is gifted in that area, but you don't have what it takes to make sure that he's good. So he has to go and worry about this, that, and the third. Then come and develop a full
same
music
mentality
program.
as a minister.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Same mentality.
So that's a part of inventory.
Yeah.
That's a part of it.
Or
you
a
know?
preaching minister.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a part of it.
And I think of it this. He talked about taking inventory. There's a saying that my mentor used to say to me in my profession. He said, Darwin, when you're dealing with teachers, you're going to have to get them good or you're going to have to get them gone. One or two. Get them good or you're gone. He said, but let me tell you the secret. I said, what? He said, it ain't few of them you're going to get gone. So you better start investing on getting them good. When you're talking about people in congregations, worship leaders, people, there are only a limited amounts of Jason Walkers.
Right.
It just is what it is.
Limited
It is what it
edition,
is.
God.
You know what I'm saying? Just like there's only a limited amount of Willie B. Williams III. You know what I'm saying? But there are men who love God, who love worship, that can be invested in
Right.
in their own
Absolutely.
congregation if there is a clear vision of what it is that you want. So if you're talking about your very first step, first thing is the leadership, the man of God has to have a vision about what the worship is. And then once he decides what his vision is and he identifies a man, then he needs to work hand in hand with the man who he identifies to make sure that the church vision and the ministry of music vision are aligned.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's it. But more than anything, I think we've all keep saying this. It's got to be some intentionality about it.
Oh, yeah.
It's got to be a real. This is what we need. This is where we're gonna go, and this is how we're gonna get there. And I guarantee you, man, if you start investing in people, you'll be, because that guy who you think has a subpar talent
Can go from here to there if you would just support it.
and in many cases, he already has the heart of the people because he's working alongside of them.
Absolutely.
So then he can actually grow the people that he's been working alongside because they already love him.
Yeah.
What you said about the vision is so important, and so that means it is the responsibility of the ministers of the local congregation to do more than a 2-week study of worship.
Yeah.
You have to study worship in its truest sense. I believe that you have to study it, just like you study the epistles. You have to study
Sure.
worship,
Yeah.
what it is, what it means to God, what it looks like, what it does not look like. And when you do that, then you'll be able to develop a template and say, okay, listen, we got these guys who can do this. We're trying to bring somebody. We have a clear vision of what it is that we want to do because I've studied this thing.
Yeah.
Just like I've studied marriage, divorce, and remarriage.
I'm gonna tell y'all, if y'all could get together, this is my suggestion.
Yeah.
And this will bless our brotherhood.
Yeah.
If y'all
I
could
know
get
what you're gonna
together,
say.
if
And
y'all
I'm
could
gonna
get
ask
together,
you too.
if you could develop
Yeah.
a template and mail it,
Yeah.
email it, post it
Yeah.
to churches and say, when you bring one in,
Yeah.
you can't give a specific price because every church is,
Right.
and I know a lot of what we do is minimum. Say, hey, this is a range.
Yeah.
If you're this size of a congregation and you want us to do, then this is a range for a lot of ministers who never knew
Right.
Yeah.
because there was nothing to look at.
No
Yeah.
template.
For you to be able to say, hey, this is a template across the board,
Yeah.
as we have consulted multiple praise leaders that you will want to bring in.
Yeah.
Because in our fellowship and in our faith, it's very small.
Yeah.
I was about to say that's the key when you talk about a template, because there's been a template for a long time. It's just it wasn't in the right
Hands, or it wasn't
Fellowship,
circulated.
so to speak.
Yeah.
So if you could, if that could be known, not something on Facebook or not something that's public, but just something amongst,
I agree.
like even like a lectureship where you can just pass out to ministers.
Yeah.
We want all the ministers to say, hey, we just want to let you know
This is what we're looking at.
this
Also-
is the union of praise
Worship
leaders.
leaders. Yeah.
Go ahead.
You know something about that too, and because I know for myself, being in Kings with Brother Wilson, one thing I'm always thinking about is if I had known that I was going to be a music minister. God, my own personal story is whatever it is, but God developed my life so that I would be ready You know what I mean? Formal training
Yeah.
is something that, so you got, you got just what's in you, and then formal training, like the level is here. You know what I mean? And I'm just talking about myself. My formal training is here, but my life at home, sitting up under my mom,
Right.
you know what I mean, watching my wife, all types of stuff. Music has been a part of my culture, and if I had known that I was going to be doing what I'm doing now, you know what I mean, I would have loved at Southwestern to have known, like imagine if I had classes.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff I had to go and do on my own,
Yeah.
which is fine, but I'm saying now's the time.
It would have pushed you so
Oh
much
yeah,
further along.
and you know the reason. I mean, I've been blessed to have the formal training in music. Like my degree is in music. But part of the reason why we don't get the formal training, men at Southwestern or men in churches, because there was not a market of employment. So see, you go and get training in when you think you get a job in.
Yeah.
Right.
See, so
Absolutely.
what we have to do is we have to create a market of employment
For
for though, and I guarantee you'll find brothers that'll say, I'm gonna study this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do those things within our fellowship. And when I say our fellowship, with amongst African American churches.
Right, because that's a different beat.
It's funny. You're a doctor of music, right?
No, I'm a doctorate of education, but yes.
But music major. You were a music major at one point, correct?
Yeah.
I was a music major
Yeah.
at one point. In high school,
Yeah.
I did 4 years of choir in high school and did Tennessee, all state, all that. Cool. The number one question that you hear as a music major is, oh, well, so what's your major? Music. Oh, what are you planning to do with
What do
that?
you do with that?
That and interdisciplinary studies.
Yeah.
You always get that question. Well, what do you plan to do with that? Like you said, there's a very, very, very small, if any, market for employment.
Yeah.
When you look at our schools, they're cutting music programs at a rapid rate all across the country. Anybody can become a YouTube star overnight.
Yeah.
There really is, listen to the radio, there is very little value in music and in the education aspect of music. So at some point, that formal, like we talked about, investment, you have to invest in the formal training of your guys, because like I said before, you love everything Hezekiah Walker does.
Yeah.
You love everything that Ty Tribbett does. You love everything that Dietrich Hatton and Jay Moss and John P. Key and Fred Hammond does. But a lot of us don't have the formal training
To do that.
and there's even more that don't have the ability or the gift to hear all that stuff,
hear
and
it.
so they boil it down
to nothing.
to nothing.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So we have one takeaway with, because I know we got to close.
Right.
And I'm hungry. Ain't y'all hungry?
Yeah.
I said, ain't y'all?
Ain't y'all.
I think if we have one takeaway, is that we have to create a paradigm that values
Yes, sir.
the work of the music ministry.
And I say this, we talked about this the other day.
Yeah.
When you reject,
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
you're
Lord
right.
have mercy.
when you reject,
come on with
you teach the church,
To reject it too.
and the value raises.
Yeah.
So when you say no, that's not acceptable. You just taught me that if I wanted that, the price is not this, the price is that.
Yeah.
The investment is not the amount of collaboration. That means I'm going to have to take out some time and talk to you about the vision, which means we need to have a vision. We need to have, so we're not even ready. And because you reject it, you you're going to teach this is no longer acceptable.
Right.
Because to accept it lowers the value.
Yes, it does.
So when we reject it, we can, they say this, Bentleys never go on sale.
Never.
No.
So you can't negotiate with a Bentley. You can't say, you can't come in with a coupon. We don't give coupons. They tell you that the price is this.
Because there's a
And
standard.
if you can't, it's a standard. So if you can't pay the price, you have to leave. Because if we just gave it, we have now lessened the value
Right.
of this vehicle that we put so much into.
Yeah.
That's not the average. Our worship services in the Church of Christ should be phenomenal and crazy. But we need to start with rejecting what we have and saying, and we're not even talking about worship styles. We're just talking about the quality of what we do and investing. We're not investing. So I appreciate y'all.
Man.
Let's eat, man. You better say, don't food be cold.